Immigrants have kept their shops shut in Johannesburg as a wave of xenophobia now threatens to spread in South Africa. Are the authorities there doing enough to protect their citizens as well as foreign investors? And what does this latest incident tell us about how South Africa not only has a sense of identity within itself and its relations with regard to the rest of the continent? We'll be looking at those matters in perspective right here in Global Business Africa. Welcome to the program. Here's what's in the pipeline. Ghana is launching an ambitious national employment policy. We'll tell you all about it. And China's airline, Southern Airlines rather, will be flying direct to Kenya. Let's start with the day's biggest story. Immigrants in downtown Johannesburg shut down their shops on Wednesday as a wave of anti-foreigner violence threatens to spread. South Africa has actually had to erect safe camps in Durban for fleeing immigrants whose shops were looted or burned in this violence, which has now been running amok for about 2 weeks now. There were, however, no reports of looting or violence in Johannesburg, which was the epicenter of a wave of xenophobic attacks in 2008 that left 60 people died, actually more than 60 people dead once the violence is over. A mobile phone text message sent to shop owners warned them to shut down their premises. South Africa has a population of roughly 50 million. It's home to an estimated 5 million immigrants. Unemployment is about 25%, has been for a long while, and youth unemployment is almost 40%. Let's get some deeper understanding of what's going on in South Africa. Edmund Elias is a spokesperson for the South African National Traders Retail Alliance. He's live in Johannesburg right now. Thank you for your time this evening, sir. Tell me, have any of Santra's members been affected by this latest wave of xenophobic violence?
Yes, certainly. I think this has a ripple effect. I, for myself, am a trader on the streets and I didn't trade today. I would say several thousand traders, regardless of whether they were foreigners or not, lost income today.
Indeed. Foreign shop owners in Johannesburg also did, of course, shut down their enterprises, as we mentioned a little earlier. Tell us, do your members, do they have any faith, do they have any reason to believe that the government will actually resolve this problem? Because it is, after all, fairly recurrent.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. Up to yesterday, I would say no, because it's ongoing, and I think we have crisis management in place, which isn't very effective, because what happens is it pops up in a different place almost every day. What we learned tonight is that the intelligence services were working, and a number of ringleaders in the Johannesburg area were rounded up, but that at this point is unconfirmed.
Indeed. For the benefit of our viewers outside South Africa who perhaps may not understand the context of this story, please explain to us how these factors come together. High unemployment, poverty, underdevelopment. How are these being used as excuses for these xenophobic violence?
Yes, this is a multifaceted issue, not exclusively confined to xenophobia. In fact, what has been created through the wealth gap, as you defined it, is an opportunity for criminals to take advantage of every opportunity to marginalize the vulnerable. And in this case, the foreign national traders are the vulnerable, but they're not the only victims, because there are repeated attacks on municipal facilities, malls, on municipal markets, on municipal buildings, etc. And it's all in the name of this wealth gap imbalance.
Indeed. One final question for you, Mr. Elias. South Africa's government has consistently, 2008, even in this particular incident over the last 2 weeks or so, they've consistently labeled these events as criminal events and not xenophobic violence per se. Doesn't this just enhance the problem by seeming to normalize such violence?
Yes, this is definitely xenophobic violence. Unfortunately, the foreign nationals are the victims of criminal conduct. There's a link between criminality and xenophobia. And I don't believe that the government of the day has a handle on the situation or is reading the situation correctly.
Indeed. We'll have to leave it there for the time being. Thank you for your input tonight. Edmund Elias in Johannesburg, South Africa there. He's a spokesperson for the South African National Traders Retailers Alliance. We'll be keeping a very, very close eye on that story as it continues to progress. We're still in South Africa, though. Thousands of workers at South Africa's Eskom's Medupi power plant stayed away from work on Wednesday. They rejected an offer by the firm to rehire them, about 1,700 workers in this case, after they were dismissed for vandalism during a strike over higher pay and better working conditions. The workers want all their demands to be addressed before they return to work. Labour disruption and technical faults have increased costs at Eskom's Medupi coal-fired power plant, which is currently under construction. Once complete, it will become South Africa's first new power station to come online in over 2 decades. It would also address a chronic power supply shortage in the country by adding about 4.9 gigawatts of generation capacity online. Over in West Africa, Ghana's government has launched an ambitious new national employment policy. The scheme aims to create a greater number of better paid jobs in the private sector and to move a lot more people out of the poverty gap. The majority of Ghanaians aren't employed in the formal sector, as our correspondent Katerina Vitozzi now reports.
Putting jobs first. Ghana's president officially launched the country's new national employment policy this Wednesday at a 2-day national job summit. Although Ghana's had steady economic growth over the past 30 years, the state of the country's labour force isn't as strong as leaders could hope for.
Unemployment is a common problem and therefore not peculiarly a Ghanaian problem. Even though the Ghana Living Standards Survey such of 2013 and 2014 puts the unemployment rate of Ghana at 5.2%, the social and economic cause of unemployment is profound and indeed can be destructive.
Ghana's unemployment figures are slightly better than the regional average. But more worrying is the low number of workers with secure jobs getting decent wages in the formal private sector. Independent experts say that 88% of Ghana's workforce is involved in the informal sector. The new national employment policy wants to reduce that number and create more, better jobs. To do that, the government says skills training is a priority to equip people with the training they need to get decent work.
This we're doing by revamping our technical and vocational institutions, retooling our polytechnics, and also upgrading them into technical universities. The obligation for skills, empowerment, and training now falls more on government in order to prepare the young people for the world of work so that the employers can take them up and immediately put them to work.
But private sector bosses say more is needed than just skills. Ghana's ongoing energy crisis has led to more than 10,000 job cuts from manufacturing firms. Employers say the government has to get the power infrastructure working if they want to see more jobs created. Katerina Vitozzi, CCTV, Accra.
China's Southern Airlines has announced plans to start direct flights to Nairobi from the 5th of August this year. The airline will ply the Guangzhou-Nairobi route 3 times a week on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays with an Airbus A330-200. Those planes have a capacity of about 300 passengers. Guangzhou, of course, does serve as quite the connection point. It's a hub to cities in Asia and the Far East. Travel by African businessmen looking to buy goods has been on the rise. Kenya Airways launched daily non-stop flights to Guangzhou in November 2013. The two carriers signed a code-sharing agreement at that time.
Guangzhou is as good as Beijing and Shanghai as a transportation hub. The capacity of Guangzhou Airport is bigger than Shanghai. Our service is also very good. I believe that Guangzhou Airport can serve as a good transition station.
Let's wrap up this segment with a look at the market. Today of red ink right across the board, except, however, for South Africa. The all-share index in Johannesburg up by over 0.7. Elsewhere, however, a correction firmly still in force from Nigeria to Nairobi and also in Egypt. Can you convince consumers in Ghana to buy goods on the basis of their being made domestically? We'll be finding out. And we'll also be looking at the long untapped opportunities in sports marketing when we come back.
Sustainable development and a commitment to developing partnerships with Africa. Some of the key phrases already used at the Africa Global Business Forum here in Dubai.
There is a need for a predictable environment in which investors have to put their money.
Welcome back to the program. You're watching Global Business Africa from the Kenyan capital, Nairobi. Let's take you to Ghana. The country has unveiled a new logo that aims to promote the consumption of locally made goods. Made in Ghana, premium quality, that's what you should expect to see. The idea here is to project uniqueness in the quality of local products and hopefully revive an economy, as Leslie Murungu now reports.
The Made in Ghana premium quality new logo was selected from about 100 entries submitted to the Ministry of Trade and Industry. The logo is expected to help strengthen the industrial sector, boost exports, and create job opportunities.
It's quite clear that the objectives of the Made in Ghana promotional campaign include to support Ghana's industries, to help create jobs in Ghana, to generate incomes for our own people, and therefore to improve the quality of life of Ghanaians. We also hope, therefore, to reduce our trade imbalance by exporting more than we import if we produce more in Ghana and we support our own industries. We, of course, also very fundamentally hope to, in the process, change our own mindsets about ourselves and about things we make.
Entrepreneurs and industrialists have all been encouraged to embrace the new logo so as to boost the economy as well as improve the quality of their products.
It's about time that as a people, we started believing in ourselves. It's about time that for us, anything that we put out there, this should be a logo for Ghanaian brands. We should go beyond products and services. We should be talking about Ghanaian brands. This logo should, once you put it on, it should be talking quality. This is a logo that should help in transforming our country. And I call on all businesses that you should aspire to have this logo on your brand.
The move has been widely welcomed by traders and business people in the country.
Made in Ghana goods is good for us. When we produce them here, I think it can help us more. You see, well, as for me, the goods that I'm selling here, I used to bring them from China. I think when I get them here, the plane tickets and the visas will benefit me.
The Ghanaian government is targeting to reduce over-dependence on foreign products as well as stabilize the local cedi currency. Last year, Ghana's President John Mahama appealed to Ghanaians to change their unrestrained taste for foreign goods and switch to goods made in Ghana. Leslie Murungu, CCTV.
Now, in a deal valued at slightly over $1 million, one of Kenya's largest insurance companies has acquired branding rights to one of the country's stadiums. That deal gives Britam Insurance exclusive naming rights to the 30,000-seat Nyayo National Stadium. And it follows two other similar branding deals in the last 5 years. In 2009, Coca-Cola acquired naming rights to the same facility for $1.5 million. In 2012, Safaricom, whose corporate colours you're seeing now, white and green, acquired the naming rights to the Kasarani Stadium. That deal was valued at over $2 million. However, there's been a pullback in spending on sports by corporations in other areas. In early March this year, Safaricom announced that it would be ending its sponsorship deals with football, athletics and rugby federations. Why? The corporation at the time cited concerns about the way their money was being spent. Let's dig a little deeper into this particular sector. It hasn't gained a lot of traction across Africa, more so in East Africa. Sam Karanja is the General Manager of Blueprint Marketing, the division of Ogilvy here in Kenya. He's with us in studio to help us explore the world of sports marketing in detail. Sam, walk us through the details and the mechanics of this deal. Britam has handed over the better part of $1 million. What do they get in return? What's the value proposition for the company here?
Thanks a lot, Rama. I think in understanding this deal, it will be very fair to understand the context of sports marketing and the sports business. In sports business, rights are the main currency, and we've seen over the number of years proliferation of many rights. Sports arenas have gotten some rights. Football clubs have gotten some rights, which they dispose. So in this case, the stadium management in Kenya floated naming rights and also branding rights for the Nyayo Stadium and also the Kasarani Stadium, as you mentioned before. For Kasarani, Safaricom was able to snap up those rights. Britam has now snapped up the rights, branding rights for the Nyayo Stadium. What that entails, they're exclusive rights for 2 years. Britam will be able to have any advertising rights over the stadia, the volleyball courts, the VIP, the aquatic center, and they can be able to do any activation, any marketing activation they would like to do. The other bit is obviously they get that exclusive rights over all the matches, local and internationals. And I must say, branding rights are very lucrative. Compared to naming rights, they give the most visibility to any organization. Of course, for Britam, they are looking at selling their products, pushing a lot of their financial services to consumers. The biggest currency and the master stroke that they've gotten out of this is obviously a stadium brings together all fans. And corporate organizations are looking at the passions, looking at these consumers, people who are always engaged, people who spend 4 hours, 5 hours in a weekend inside a stadium supporting their team. And what better time for them to have a look at the products.
Indeed. But this also does tend to have a few pitfalls, shall we say. Let's go back to that Coca-Cola deal in 2009. That deal came apart because the government at the time was insisting that it should be the Nyayo part of the name should be maintained in it. And in this case, we're seeing Britam saying we're going to essentially avoid keeping a situation where they tinker around with the name in order to avoid that controversy. Just to be clear, does this deal give the firm exclusive branding rights, or in this case is Britam simply not choosing to exercise them?
It gives, this particular deal gives Britam the branding rights, not the naming rights. I think one of the issues, and you've mentioned the 2009 case, if you remember, there was a lot of hue and cry about Coca-Cola naming, renaming the national stadium. And this is not a problem just for Kenya. I think we've seen it in sub-Saharan Africa, where stadiums are actually national assets. The biggest owners of sporting facilities are governments. And we think that handing over these particular facilities to a commercial entity is actually handing over the title deed. That's not the issue.
So it's essentially it's a perception problem.
Exactly. So these particular assets need to be commercialized, because at the end of the day, government takes your taxes to repair these stadiums. It doesn't have money. In 2009, on 2008, actually, the government at the particular time formed the Stadium Management Board, which was a huge leap in terms of just getting a body which will manage the facilities around the country. However, like many parastatals, it did not have any money to repair or help in maintaining such facilities. And therefore, it was a very good move for them to look to float the rights for such a stadium, to ensure that the grounds are maintained, they're up to scratch, that organizations can be able to have a number of other revenue generating streams. For example, a stadium, if you look at out in the West, stadiums do provide a huge revenue streams, be it for local governments, for clubs that own those facilities. And the only best thing is once you maintain that stadium or build it in such a way that you can be able to generate a lot of maximum revenue. What am I saying? If you look at the Emirates, the stadium, the way it was built, or any other stadium that has naming rights, it's built in such a way that it can be able to generate revenue for itself. Be it the commercial holdings you see on the sides, be it a hospitality. If you look at most of those stadiums, they do have huge hospitality tents, or an area where you can actually host business leaders, people who come to matches to watch, and these people pay a premium to watch those matches. And therefore, there's need, not just for Kenya, but also for other governments to look at ways and means of commercializing and selling these rights. The main currency, as I mentioned, for sports marketing is rights. And sports arenas are huge revenue streams for governments or any corporate organization.
Right, you'll have to leave it there for the time being. Thank you very much for your input. We've been speaking to Sam Karanja, General Manager of Blueprint Marketing. He's, of course, been developing quite a bit of expertise in that area for the last couple of years. Let's head over to the EU. It's accused Google of cheating competitors by distorting its internet search results in order to favour its own shopping service. Now, the union also launched another antitrust investigation into its Android mobile operating system. The EU's competition commissioner said the American tech giant had been sent a statement of objections. Now, effectively, that's a charge sheet to which Google can then respond. She also said that other probes into Google's business practices will continue. The EU's Competition Commission, whose control of antitrust matters across the 28-nation bloc gives it an enormous say in the face of global corporations, can fine companies up to 10% of their total annual sales. Now, in Google's case, you're looking at $6.6 billion US.
Google's favorable treatment of its comparison shopping service, you probably know it as Google Shopping, is an abuse of Google's dominant position in general search. Google now has 10 weeks to respond. And of course, I will carefully consider the response before deciding how to proceed.
As far as commodity prices are concerned, let's make a quick run through oil. $59.50 per barrel. That's a relevant number you're looking at on Brent crude. An interesting report coming out from the EIA across the pond in the United States the other day. Shale output down by 45,000 barrels of crude a day in May, according to their forecasts. Shale, of course, is responsible for the boosting of U.S. output by about 4 million barrels of crude a day since 2010. Have we bottomed out? Well, the EIA, based on the data, certainly seems to think so. Coming up next, we'll be looking at the difference that a tricycle can make to women entrepreneurs in South Africa.
Africa is not one country.
And Africa is not one story.
But as Africans, we do share one belief.
What more offensive?
That whatever the challenge, we will overcome.
CCTV Africa brings you unrivaled coverage.
From the fight against Ebola to the fight for greater freedom.
From the figures seeking your vote to the figures shaping your economy.
This is Guy Henderson reporting from the jungles of East.
And all the reasons to celebrate the diversity of life on this great continent.
Welcome back to the program. A South African project is empowering women waste collectors and turning them into self-employed entrepreneurs. The Bahama project is a South African initiative that provides tricycles and trailers free of charge to struggling collectors of recyclable waste materials. Jolie Shire has been looking at it in detail.
Pushing down on tricycle pedals and moving faster and forward when collecting recycling materials. A group of women in Bramfisherville in Soweto have been given the chance by Pagama Project to understand how profitable recycling can be. Pagama aims to uplift currently self-employed people in the informal business sector and create employment opportunities. The project provides free of charge well-maintained tricycles to struggling recycling waste collectors.
These people are entrepreneurs at heart. There is a lot of creativity and that sort of thing, and we'd like to bring, and the project has brought the skills to them, you know, to be able to collect waste in a productive way and in a way that we teach them in the skills of sorting this properly. And obviously they can recycle double, up to 3 times the amount that they've recycled before. It's brought a lot of dignity to them, and to see where it's taken them and what they've been able to do with it. Some of them have mentioned to us that they've been able to start feeding families, helping families, schooling, paying for school fees and that sort of thing. And it's really a heartwarming and a heartfelt feeling for us, very satisfying that we can bring an opportunity but also bring soul satisfaction to them.
It's a strange, strange world we live in.
This social responsibility project was founded by one of South Africa's most famous music groups, known as Four Jacks and a Jill.
They needed more than just a tricycle or a means of transport. They needed organisation. They needed a lot of upliftment in a lot of different areas. And as a result, we put the project together, which doesn't just give them a tricycle, but it also trains them with regards to recyclable material and also what to do with the recyclable material.
This project is not just aimed at women, but its success is due to these ladies who have understood the entrepreneurial opportunities waste can provide.
This project is very important, and I will encourage many women to get involved, to pick the waste so that they can be able to maintain their family. As a breadwinner, I maintain my 2 sisters, and as a widow, I managed to take my children to school.
I believe in opening my own business, working for myself, to be self-employed. So with these strikes, it's simpler. You are self-employed. And these strikes, you can go whenever you go. The troll is heavy to pull it, and we managed to make more tanks with it. My big achievement is to empower people and to improve our own community. My aim is to formalize the waste pickers in a formal way where they feel they're proud.
Pagama hopes to empower others and enrich communities, replicating the success story across South Africa, but needs the help of other corporates to continue with their social responsibility. With the skills and entrepreneurship empowerment given here by Pagama, 10 women are changing their lives and providing for their families, showing that this model could be replicated across South Africa. Julie Shire, CCTV, Johannesburg.
Quick conversation around African currency, specifically zeroing in on the Kenyan shilling. The slide that we focused on in detail in the first part of yesterday's bulletin, very much in progress today, 93.40 to the American dollar. That's the number we're looking at here today. We should point out, however, the central bank did say yesterday that this is more confluent of factors. You've got a lot of corporate demand coming through at the moment for the greenback, and that is partly responsible for the decline in the Kenyan shilling. Now, here's what we're working on for tomorrow's program. Out with the old, in with the new. We'll be looking at the new lease on Johannesburg markets, following artists' strokes of paint across the city. We'll also be looking at Nairobi's absolutely annoying traffic nightmare. It seems to be getting absolutely worse by the day. We'll tell you why and how it can be resolved right here on Global Business. But that's it for this edition of the program. We like hearing what you think around here. Global Business Africa at cctv.com is the email to use. And of course, we're always listening to your feedback and providing you with more content on Facebook and on Twitter. Thank you for watching. I'm Ramanya.